Hi everybody! It is a beautiful Sunday morning down here in Yucca Valley, and I am lucky enough that my friend Katie and her hubby came out to visit us this weekend. So I wanted to take the opportunity to interview her because she's been doing nutrition coaching for about a year now, and she just has so much knowledge and so many through her life journey she has become so well versed, and then she has such a great approach to her coaching, and I just felt like it would be something that would be well worth sharing. And instead of writing up a typical interview, I just thought it'd be more fun to do a little in-person interview, especially since I've got her here in person. So let's just start with this is Katie Harrell. And she's just gonna tell us a little bit about herself. So maybe start with you could talk about your childhood and but just maybe your background, your schooling, just tell us a little bit about your journey, what brought you to about this point.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is so exciting.
I love it.
So I grew up typical standard American diet. We had a snack cabinet,
Nice.
and we had access to it all the time. We had a fridge in the garage full of sodas.
What was in the snack cabinet?
Oh, it was Hostess treats.
Yeah.
It was those trans fat pies that are now we know that are terrible for you.
Yeah.
We had those all the time. We had ding dongs and Twinkies and chips and fruit snacks because fruit's healthy.
Yeah.
Then we had a fridge full of sodas, and so for me, I always thought that stuff was very normal.
Sure.
And then dinners, we had a typical homemade dinner every night. We had it'd be spaghetti or it'd be a meat, a vegetable, and some sort of rice or roni thing. But it was very 90s, very 90s convenient food.
Sure.
Vegetables are from a can and salads from a packet, and it's not like our parents were terrible. That's just convenient, and that's what they
For sure.
And everyone's
it's a standard American diet.
Standard American diet.
You don't know what you don't know.
We didn't know what we didn't know. And from there, I learned more about nutrition when I started to work out a little bit more in high school. I started lifting weights with my choir teacher. Kind of random, but her husband was a football coach, and so she would just go be lifting all the time.
So not that random.
But
she has a connection.
That is a weird connection to learn how to work out.
Yeah.
I had my own membership to the Y, and I would start to take fitness a little more seriously, and it made me take nutrition more seriously. But from my understanding of nutrition, it was fat-free products. It was
the 90s.
The 90s could not be more 90s. It was all the fat-free stuff, and it'd be the low-fat Triscuits and the low-fat the wheat thins.
Yeah,
that was my healthy jam. But when you eat the whole box, that defeats the purpose, right?
Portion control.
A little bit, yeah. I didn't know what that was. So I grew up on a pretty standard diet. I hated exercise when I was really young, and I kind of got into it in high school. And then when I started marathoning in college, and I found CrossFit, and from those I learned how to use food as fuel versus using food as punishment. And my focus from being skinny and small, because I was kind of always a thick girl, changed from being skinny and small to being more strong and better.
Yeah.
And learning how to use food to fuel that instead. So for me, that's kind of where my journey went.
You just said something interesting that I just want to touch on really quick. You said using food as punishment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
So if I cheated and I would have brownies or something I shouldn't have had, I would punish myself by over-exercising.
Sure.
I would skip meals. I would hate myself for it, and you'd be you have that guilt and that shame that carries with that, and what's wrong with me, and or only eating lettuce the next day or something like that. I always felt like I had to superset whatever I did the day before with punishing myself the next day.
Like balance it out, like on a scale or something.
Yeah. Because that's how calories work, food works. That's how your body works. You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know what you don't know, and that's why we're talking.
Yeah.
So it sounds like growing up on the standard American diet, like it sounds like you probably had like some habits like ingrained in you that weren't so healthy. And that probably led, or it sounds like, I mean, you even just talked about like how you would punish yourself then. So it led to lifestyle habits then that also weren't leading you down like what would be like a nutritious or like healthy life kind of path. So what brought you to the point to like pursue nutrition like specifically?
I've always been really interested in nutrition. I would like read like all my magazines. That was the first thing I would read is like the nutrition articles. And then I really started getting into podcasts, and they were all nutrition based. And for me, it was a hobby, even though you need food to eat. But nutrition became a hobby because I really like to learn about it so I can be the best me. And then a few years ago, I was like, I'm doing all this research and I'm learning about this stuff, and people kind of naturally started coming to me for nutrition advice.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, well, why don't I pursue this and get some training and make this a thing? And so about 2 years ago, I really started the process of that. Yeah. And it kind of led me to where I am today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's just quickly touch on your educational background. Did you feel, because Katie's a teacher, did you feel like jumping from like teaching to coaching was like, was that like an easy transition? I mean, I know you're still teaching, but like, do you find that there's like a little bit of overlap? And then just tell us about like your education, like your bachelors, your masters.
Yeah.
Because you're the smartest in the world.
No, I just love school, so I just keep going. So I have my bachelor's in education, and then I have my master's in education. And I teach from Chapman. Yeah. And I teach high school science and health. Yeah. So that kind of lend it.
Yeah.
And teaching and coaching really are the same. Except my audience with coaching usually wants to listen to me, whereas teaching,
especially high schoolers,
don't listen to me. So, so that's the biggest difference, really. Usually, if they're, working with you, they want to listen and like learn from you. Sometimes,
balls, bee interference, but you don't want to hurt the bees.
No,
save the bees.
Shooing it away. Go elsewhere. So it's very similar, and I find myself using the same, like when you teach, you want to really break down this big concept into bite-sized pieces for people, and I feel like that's lend itself into my coaching. So instead of, giving them like the way I would eat right off the bat, like I look at where my client is, and then we take little approaches from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's a perfect little segue, because I just want to talk about like your coaching approach a little bit. Like if someone wanted to be coached by you, like what would they expect like going into coaching?
So because I'm a teacher, there's homework.
Sure.
And so I do like to look at where they are at that point. So what is their habits? What are their eating habits? What are their sleeping? Stress levels? Because all of those things, you're not just a segmented thing. Like everything really plays into your health. And so I like to look at the really big picture. And then we do focus on, like on small steps for nutrition. But then we also address other things like how's your digestion? Because you can be eating the best diet, but if you're not digesting and absorbing it, like you're not going to be healthy. So we look at different strategies like that, and definitely stress. Stress is a big one, and that's usually like one of the first places I work with people is managing stress and their sleep. So and then from there we come up with a plan, and then it's so adjustable. Like once you've achieved something, then we go into the next thing. And
really quickly, because I don't think we touched on this yet. Who did you get certified through for your nutrition coaching?
Oh, I'm certified through Nutritional Therapy Association. So
you're a certified
nutritional therapist.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I just wanted to touch on that too.
No. I forgot that with my education.
No.
Yeah.
You're like my master's.
My master's. That's it. Well, that's what I had to do.
This is really cool.
The other stuff was fun to do for me.
Yeah. No, I know. I've thought about doing like my nutrition cert because I'm like you, like I geek out on this stuff. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I feel like almost all my time is spent like reading like nonfiction books, like on like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. That's cool.
And people naturally gravitate to you for nutrition and workout advice because you not only know so much, but you live it.
Well, same with you. I would say that that's the same. Like, I think that when you find like a balance within like yourself, and not saying that like there aren't bad days, because I know that we both have like days where we're on those train tracks and all of a sudden we're like, oh, derailed, and then we eat an entire box of wheat thins.
I've had wheat thins all the time.
Neither have I actually, but I will crush like an entire bag of tortilla chips. No lie.
Isn't that how aren't those single servings?
Especially siete.
Oh yes. Okay, there's no way there's 5 servings in there.
Zero. Especially because when you open those bags, they're like already half empty. Like,
there's
not saying anything bad about siete. Love siete, but come on. Yeah. Sponsor us.
Please sponsor us. Yes, those chips.
Okay, so that's a great thing about like knowing about how like your coaching approaches. What would you say like on the other side of that coin, if someone wanted to be coached, like what do they need to do to prepare themselves for that? And like, would you say that like some people are better clients than others, or like what would you say about that?
To be coachable, really, and this might sound cliche, but you want to have that growth mindset, that open mindset.
Talk about what that is.
That's just being a little more flexible in your thinking and being able to adjust your current patterns, and then not seeing your past experiences as fixed, as that's the way I have to be all the time, but being open to grow and to
like nothing's permanent.
Nothing's permanent. Thank you. Yeah, nothing's permanent. Everybody, it's like having a fixed intelligence versus having opportunities to grow. It's like
like what I know is what I know, and that's it.
That's it. Those clients typically tend to be the hardest to work with, and they won't find success because what they know typically hasn't worked for them. Like, has that worked for you? And if it hasn't, like, let's talk about some other options.
Yeah.
I get a lot of keto clients that come to me, and when I try to talk to them about carbs, especially athletes, athletes that are keto, that's usually the biggest resistance. I always thought it'd be fat, like getting people to eat fat, but I guess that's not a problem anymore. It's carbs, so we're swinging back the other way.
Carbs are scarier.
So it's the clients that are open to change because they see that maybe something hasn't worked for them. And they're more flexible in their thinking. Those clients tend to be more successful.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, it's sort of like just there's less resistance to like change in general because you believe that there is opportunity for change rather than believing that everything, like, this is who I am. And so I just like trying to shove like that circle through the square peg. Like,
how can you make this work for me?
Right.
It might not be.
Right. So what would you say, like, when you're implementing like a new program for somebody, like what are some of like the first things that you look at? Or like you said stress earlier and like some lifestyle things, but like are there any like typical go-tos that, like, I mean, I know that everyone's gonna be different, but are there any like overarching things that like pop to mind?
Again, so it's that the eating, with their eating, their nutrition, usually I look at quality of food. And the first thing I try to get people away from is the trans fats, the saturated fats, the fake fats.
Sure.
Because it's so ingrained in all of our diets. I even take that out before I address sugar, actually. So I feel like it's more harmful to the health. So like margarine's not as big of an issue now. We would talk about stuff like that, the way your food is cooked, maybe some switching.
Just to be clear, you're saying that margarine's not as much of an issue because it's not as popular.
It's not as popular, and I feel like people know now to just eat butter.
Right.
Good
Okay.
call.
I just want to make sure.
Margarine's
people are like, margarine's okay.
So we could eat margarine, right? No, throw that away. I can't believe it's not butter because it's not. Throw it away.
Just eat the butter.
Eat the butter. Bobby knows what to do with butter.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what to do with margarine. It drives me nuts.
Is that plastic? What is that?
Yeah, so going back from that, thinking about what you're cooking your food in, when you eat out, looking at like how your food is also cooked. And then we do look at sugar and maybe some hidden sources of sugar, because most people think like, well, I eat pretty healthy, but they're getting the lattes and they're getting they're cooking with spaghetti sauce that has a lot of sugar in it, or whatever. So we do address some of those. So those are usually like the two big things nutrition wise. And then with stress, it's how do you rate your stress and how do you view it? So you can live a stressful life, but if you perceive stress as good, you're going to process it differently than if the world is out to get you.
Right. That's such a good point. Like, kind of going back to the mindset again, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, because if you just get bogged down by your stress and you allow it to overcome you, which everyone gets overcome by stress sometimes, but like, if that's like a pattern in your life, rather than taking it in and like knowing how to process that through, that makes a huge, it takes a huge impact
on your health.
On your health. Well, and I find that like if I am super stressed out, I tend to make like poor food choices in general. Like I don't,
because you're in an emergency state.
Exactly.
So your body just wants emergency food, which is usually sugars and processed foods. Yeah, something you can digest quick.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, right. Everything's so connected.
I know. Like, and I think that's interesting too. I think that that sounds like something that you take into like your coaching approach as well, is that like you understand that it is all connected, that like the mind body connection plays like a vital role. Like because like I think that even, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, but like someone buying into something, like if you believe that something's going to work for you, then do you believe that that is going to work better for that person then?
Yeah.
Because it's like that buy-in.
It's the buy-in, and it's also a little bit of the placebo too. Like, not that nutrition is a placebo, but when you believe something's going to work, you're a little more open to doing it. Maybe you're more willing to stick to it.
Sure.
Versus if you don't think it's going to work, you're not going to follow it. And of course, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Or you'll look for reasons why it's not working for you. So.
Yeah. Do you ever implement any kind of like food journaling or anything like that? How do you feel about like? I've seen a lot of people like want to keep like food logs or like tracking. Like, let's talk. Like, how do you feel about that kind of stuff?
So before I come up with a plan, my clients get a food journal, and it's not like a calorie counter.
Sure. And
if they're already tracking, I just ask that they send me their stuff. I just want to see like how often you're eating, how you feel after you eat. There's different categories that they fill out. It's not their favorite part because it is some work, and nobody likes to like write down what they eat. So I get the least compliance on that, unfortunately. But for me, it's really, really helpful to know like what you're eating, the quality, the sourcing, how often you're eating, how you feel 2 hours later, how's your energy. Because for me, then I can figure out, it gives me a better picture of what's going to work for you and maybe what isn't working for you. And then depending, again, I just meet the client where they are. If we're just trying to get them to eat better, we're not going to give them a macros-based approach.
Sure.
If it's somebody that wants like kind of the next level thing and they've been eating, well for a while and they need like a more specific plan and they're willing to do it, then we'll get them. But it's really just a pendulum, and I just see where they are and we make different plans.
Yeah.
Like I have a client right now who wanted to start with macros and then decided it was overwhelming for her and it was bringing up some bad past stuff.
Sure.
And so now we just look at protein and we just make sure she gets enough protein and vegetables during the day, and then she lets me know at the end of the day like, hey, I met my protein goal, or and for her it's so much better and she's more successful with this because it's something she can do and it's one small thing. So it's kind of neat where people are.
Yeah. Totally. I can relate to that because, as you know, like I've struggled with eating disorders, like for most of like my teenage to adult life, and it makes like a huge impact on you, like when for a while like food was the only thing you felt like you could control, and that became like your crutch in life, basically, essentially. Going back to something super strict, if you're not ready for it, it can be detrimental.
Yeah, it could do something worse. And that's something that's why you need to know your clients and get some background information. I don't have any training with eating disorders, and so like I wouldn't try to address that either. I would try to, seek outside help for my clients on that part. But like having that background information, like she used to have an eating disorder, and then so now I know, like, okay, maybe not giving her like a super strict time windows, and I mean, she's not like bodybuilding or anything, so
right,
like
it's like quantities aren't
quantities,
super
yeah,
important, like,
you know,
yeah,
and for her main goal was she didn't want to lose some weight, but her main goal was she wanted to feel good during her workouts.
Yeah.
She wanted to be better in the gym. So it's like, great, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's so
Not
good.
going down a rabbit hole of scary eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When people come to you, what would you say some of like the more common like misconceptions about nutrition are still like what still exists in people that like you hear the most?
You're like, oh Lord, the margarine thing sometimes. Right now, a lot of it is keto.
Okay.
Which can be a great program.
Sure.
For me, I think it's more of a medical thing. Like if you're sick, or you suffer from a chronic illness, maybe that's a better diet to address that. But what happens is like I have a friend who lost weight on keto, so I'm going to lose weight on keto.
Sure.
And then instead of eating a salad with avocado and eggs, I'm eating chicken cooked in pork rinds, deep fried with nacho cheese.
Yeah.
Because it's keto.
There's a couple different ways to eat keto.
And people normally don't eat the way that's probably meant to be eaten.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a big one, and that's actually...
But I'm eating nut butter and bacon. What do you mean?
Bacon in nut butter. And for me, because a lot of the population I work with is athletes, it's not a great workout, or it's not a great fueling source for them because you need the carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And so they're finding out, well, yeah, I lost some weight, but my performance in the gym went down, and I don't feel good, and it's like, well, maybe it's not working for you then.
Right.
So I think the keto and going super low carb is the big thing right now, because carbs are the villain right now. So,
right.
It's getting people to reintroduce those back, and healthy carbs, good sources of carbs.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a difference.
There's a difference.
All foods are not created equal.
Sete chips is only my carbs.
I wish. Oh my gosh. What would you say your favorite thing about coaching is?
Helping people learn to eat and to love food again and not be scared. I went through my journey of like a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, and then the struggle like eating my body because it didn't look like what I thought it should look like, and taking all my experiences and helping people with theirs, and then helping them see that like you're more than your weight, you're more than a number on a scale, and food doesn't have to be complicated and scary and hard and inaccessible. Like it can be really easy to access, and just eat real food.
Yeah.
So helping people find that out for themselves.
Yeah. I think not too long ago you posted on Instagram something about like food freedom, and that's so real. Like being able to like eat and not feel like that guilt or that heaviness.
Eating something because you want to, not because you have to.
Oh,
yeah.
So good.
Or having guilt around your choices.
Like the choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a choice.
Yep.
And that's a big thing with me too. Is there's no cheating, and there's no good or bad. It's you make a choice. Like you made the choice to have a donut today. Okay.
Right.
What's your next meal going to be?
Right.
Get back on the protein.
Yeah.
There's no bad or punishment or failing.
Right.
Choices.
I mean, because like part of it is probably that you're trying to lead people down like this path of like where it's becoming a lifestyle, not a diet.
It's no longer
for some reason, like people always forget that like your diet is just how you eat.
Diet
instead of it being like I'm going on a diet.
Yeah.
Like for some reason in the 90s we started getting, or maybe it was before that. I don't know. Wasn't really cognizant in the 80s. Sorry. Little. But like, and I feel like people have started taking the word diet into like this thing where it's like, this is how I'm going to eat for now, and then I'm going to go back to how I was eating.
Yeah.
Rather than it being like, well, no, like, I'm choosing to eat this way because this is how I feel best.
Yeah, it's just
and making it your lifestyle rather than...
It's a short-term thing.
Yeah. annoying.
Your
Your diet is just how you eat, people.
Diet,
Come on.
Look it up in the dictionary. It is. It's the food you eat.
It's not meant to be like a 3-week thing where you abstain from
all food and just
you just eat lettuce and cayenne water with
Sugar
lemon.
But Beyonce did it, so
it's the best. She is the queen.
She is queen.
So if you could leave the audience with like 2 major takeaways, if there's 3, then you can do 3. But like if you have like 2 major takeaways for people, like generally about like nutrition or like whatever, like what would those be? Big question. Sorry.
I know, it's fine. I love this question too, because we always want to keep things simple. And that would actually be my first advice: is just keep nutrition simple. It doesn't have to be like I feel like I've said this already, but it doesn't have to be super complicated. It doesn't have to be restrictive or punishing or filled with guilt and shame. Just eat real foods.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't make it a bigger thing than it needs to be. Scarier thing than it needs to be.
Yeah.
I think it's really intimidating for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to a little bit about like what we were talking about earlier, even how it was like you don't know what you don't know, which is like a stupid statement, but at the same time, like our parents were making like the best decisions that they knew at that time, which was like the CDC or whoever like puts out or I think it's actually the Heart Association, the National Heart Association that puts out the food pyramid with like the recommendations, and you're trusting that those people are right, and that they have your best interest at heart, and that they know what they're talking about. So you're following that. So when they tell you like, hey, you can have 12 to 15 servings of Cheerios a day, and that's actually what you should do. Like
because of fiber,
that's what
carbohydrates, and it's the base.
It's whole grains, it's whole wheat. Like how can that be bad? But it's like there's so much more that it goes into that. So you don't know what you don't know, but keeping it simple, eating whole foods, that's good. Yeah. So keeping it simple, what would you say to like?
Oh, and then I want everyone to come away with is you are more than a number on a scale.
So good.
We need to stop self-identifying with our weight and holding our value in what we weigh or what we don't weigh, and maybe what we should look like and what we don't look like. Like we are more than that, and our value is not determined by our size. So.
I just got shivers. Yeah. I love that.
I don't know. There's so much diet culture, and especially for women. Like we're taught, like we need to, have a big ass but not too big.
Right.
Have a small waist.
A small waist.
Thigh gap. I'm never gonna have a thigh gap. So,
never.
Shut that aside. It's diet culture stupid. Your value's more than that.
Beauty can be found in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that is like